whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today, but if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace. All right, family, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the hottest live stream here on YouTube in the cosmos, ladies and gentlemen. It is channel gboot2786, as well as Gavin Richard on Facebook, Twitter, and our backup channel, whoever you are, wherever you are. I hope you are blessed and doing safe. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have several topics that we'll be discussing, including the following. Shakeup at Warner Brothers, DC. Henry Cavill out as Superman. Breaking news, Aaron Dean convicted of manslaughter in the death of Atatiana Jefferson. And does the Respect for Marriage Act really respect marriage or disrespects it? All this and more tonight, ladies and gentlemen, joined by the author extraordinaire, Shawn James, the author of The Man Crisis, as well as The Woman Crisis, which is available now everywhere on Amazon, as well as bookstores in Kindle and paper, and Kindle and electronic format. I believe it's also available in paperback format as well. But we're going to bring Shawn in. Of course, we ask if you can to donate to the following places at the bottom using the Cash App, Zelle, or Venmo to support this channel. It's not monetized. We greatly appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and get started in a second, ladies and gentlemen. But first, of course, you all know how we do things. Before we get on down, it's always time to get on up. So why don't we go ahead and let's get on up, ladies and gentlemen.
Gotta dance to the beat, because on the dance floor is where we'll meet. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the...
Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop or do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Now 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you breathe and you achieve. And so if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll be.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up
And move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Yeah, gotta get on up. Come on, baby, gotta get on up.
Feel the groove, get on the floor.
What's up, everybody? Feel the groove, get on the floor. We got to get on up. I'm going to bring in our brother extraordinaire, Mr. Shawn James, in a second. But I want to thank you all for supporting me. This has been one great year, profitable year for me, successful year of 2022. And I can't wait till what 2023 has to offer. Of course, we got to get through Christmas first. So Christmas is like one Saturday is next, one Sunday around the corner. So if you all want a book that you can get your loved ones, go and get The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby, available now on Kindle. I will actually, and I mean this because I will have some free time now for the next couple of weeks. The book will be in paperback format soon, so I'm worried that is coming right now as we speak. So I will have the announcement for that in the next few days. Let's go on and get Brother Shawn James in, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, Shawn?
What's going on, Gavin?
I'm doing fine. I know we didn't have our live stream yet last weekend, and everything was messed up. Every world was in chaos because people were wondering where we were. But I had to do a show, and I don't want to talk about that, last Thursday, and that's why we weren't here. But I'm grateful that Shawn has come back, ladies and gentlemen. And Shawn, we were plugging in your book, The Woman Crisis, but if you want to take time to talk about something right quick, you want to do another plug-in, you can.
All right, my new book, John Haynes at Death's Door, will be available on Kindle December 26th. And if you want to get the digital copy of John Haynes at Death's Door, you can put in your pre-order right now. But if you can't wait, you can get the paperback version of John Haynes at Death's Door on Amazon.com right now.
All right. We're going to go to this news, ladies and gentlemen. We have some breaking news. You know, I had some, this wasn't on the hashtag if you saw it earlier that I started, but the police officer that shot and killed Tiana Jefferson, who lived out in Fort Worth, Texas. This happened in 2019 when he responded on a non-emergency call, shot her through her window. He was convicted this afternoon of manslaughter in a court in Fort Worth, Texas. Of course, many people there were some, not too much, but there were people who are obviously outraged over the decision that this man got a manslaughter charge instead of a murder charge, which would have carried life in prison. Manslaughter at a minimum carries 2 years, at a maximum 20 years. So between 2 to 20 years, Aaron Dean can face prison time, or he is likely to face probation, one of the two. So people are not happy about it. And I'm going to play this a video we have from WFAA, which is the ABC affiliate out in Dallas, Texas. We're going to go ahead and do that right now, Shawn.
For that, we do want to show you some video here. Tatiana Jefferson's family, as Rebecca just mentioned, has waited more than 3 years for justice. And take a look here at what we saw outside the courtroom just before the judge read that verdict.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
Come on.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
Love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our change.
We have nothing to lose but our
It is
change.
our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to
It has been a very, very long time for this family, the community, and to wait for an answer. Finally, that day has come.
We're doing things for the injustice that has been plagued on us. Lord, we just want to thank you and give us the strength to be a body of people that love one another, that's tired of being abused. Lord, we just want to say, give us the strength, not just to stand, but to walk in the faith, dear Heavenly Master.
Lots of prayer there, too. We also watched family and community members praying outside the courtroom there, asking for justice. Lots of emotion in that group as they awaited the verdict this afternoon. Now to WFAA's William Joy. He's also covering the trial for us with Rebecca, and he has been watching it from inside the courtroom since the very beginning of this. William, give us an idea of what it was like to be inside there.
I mean, Jason, playing that video really sets the scene for it. I was standing right next to that man as he was playing, and it felt like the buildup almost to a wave of emotion ready to crash. And sitting inside, as soon as that verdict was read, that's exactly what we experienced. The judge even acknowledged before reading the verdict, he said a lot of people have been waiting a long time for this moment, 3 years, in fact, and that if anybody needed to make an outburst, they needed to go outside of the courtroom to do it. So as he was going juror by juror to confirm the verdict with each one of them, while sitting in the courtroom, you could hear outside in the hallway yelling, screaming, crying. I looked straight ahead at Aaron Dean as he was sitting in his chair. He was basically expressionless, emotionless, didn't even flinch, which is really the demeanor he's had if you go back even to pre-trial hearings as it was going on. His family, Jefferson's family, was also mostly expressionless, at least at first, and that's before they teared up and then left later out of a back entrance. Jane Smith, the neighbor who called police to Jefferson's home to check on her, walked out calm from the main courtroom, but slightly teary-eyed. He's been here every day the jury's deliberated. He was a witness. He's had a sign that reads, "Justice for a Tatiana," outside his home. Chris Nettles, a councilman who basically campaigned on getting a trial date for Dean, was also here. I talked to him outside the overflow courtroom because there wasn't enough room, not nearly for everybody. I asked for his thoughts. He said he's still gathering them, but thinks that more needs to be done. Overall, talking to people, the reaction was a mix. Frustration that there wasn't a guilty murder verdict, but relief that there was something.
This is progress, you know. Is it enough? We want to get to the point where we don't have to be here. That's where it's one thing to have a guilty verdict now, but we don't want to have to keep coming here. Why do we have to, as people of color, have to keep coming? It shouldn't happen. We ought to be safe in our own homes.
Dean's family walked out at the very end, the last people to leave. His mom, his sister were teary-eyed as they walked around the corner. There were other family members with them. None of them said a word as they walked down the hallway and then got on the elevator and down. The reaction, again, talking to people, feels like a lot of people are waiting to see what exactly we get at sentencing because there's still such a wide range of outcomes in the end. Jason?
Okay, I have myself on mute. That was one video that I had there. There was another video from my likes that I had wanted to share that I was watching regarding this. I think this was the CBS video that I had. So I'm going to play that right now because I want you to hear some more. This is coming from CBS Dallas Fort Worth.
New York deemed guilty of the offense of manslaughter.
Here we are now, more than 3 years after the crime. A former Fort Worth police officer today now waits to hear his sentence for killing a woman in her own home. We thank you for joining us today. I'm Doug Dunbar. Nicole is off tonight. Aaron Dean now at this hour in police custody. Here's his new mugshot. Just came into our newsroom, in fact, about 40 minutes ago. The verdict, if you were busy through the day, that was read less than 3 hours ago. We'll get underway at 5 with team coverage on the verdict. We got Caroline Vandergrift gauging reaction in the community. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's start with Jason Allen, who's been covering the story from day one. And you were in court today for everything that happened.
I was, Doug, and you just mentioned with him being booked into jail. So now more than 3 years since Tatiana Jefferson was shot and killed, Aaron Dean is going to be spending the night in jail tonight for the first time since this happened. The jury did not find that it was murder when he shot Jefferson, but with this verdict, they also did not allow him to walk free.
Mr. Presiding Juror, it is my understanding that the jury has reached a verdict. Is that correct? Is it a unanimous verdict? If you'd hand it, please, to Deputy Nicholson. Mr. Dean, if you would stand. Oh, sorry about that. Verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant Aaron York Dean guilty of the offense of manslaughter as signed by the presiding juror.
So a very matter-of-fact reading there by Judge George Gallagher. Dean and a couple of Jefferson's siblings, I was watching them in the courtroom. They held back any visible reaction when the verdict was read. Despite the judge's warning to people in the court, there were at least 3 women who reacted. A couple of them rushed out in anger, and the jury noticed that. There were some wide eyes, but asked individually by the judge, they all confirmed that manslaughter was their verdict. Many people who have been here over the last couple of weeks supporting Jefferson's family, they wanted a murder conviction. That would have carried a penalty of up to life in prison. Instead, Dean is now going to face a maximum of 20 years in prison. He could also face as few as 2 years, and he could also serve some of that under probation. So this trial isn't done yet. In the penalty phase tomorrow, jurors could hear about the impact that this all had on Jefferson's family. They could hear testimony about Dean's character, but also, as in the first part of the trial, Doug, when he was faced with, when he was making the decision that he made that night to fire his gun.
All right, Jason Allen in the courtroom for us. Now let's talk about the story developing in and around the courthouse. Our team coverage continue with Caroline Vandergrift. So I saw your streaming report on CBS News Dallas Fort Worth earlier in the afternoon when everything came down. And even in the hallway where you're standing, I could hear behind you the visceral reaction from some people.
That's right, Doug. It's a very different scene here, just a mere few hours later. But the courtroom was filled with max capacity, and a room next door, an overflow room, had dozens of people in it as well. And once the judge read that guilty of manslaughter verdict, tons of people started streaming out, expressing their anger and frustration.
He killed that girl. Manslaughter, that's what you kiddies do. And we expect justice from these people?
Many of the supporters here told me not finding Aaron Dean guilty of murder was a failure of the justice system. They said manslaughter is something better than nothing, but Tatiana Jefferson deserved more. Both Jefferson and Dean's families, along with their supporters, have been waiting for this verdict for more than 3 years. Now all their attention turns to the sentencing phase. Dean will get anywhere from 2 to 20 years in prison. Some of the supporters here for the Jefferson family, along with Chris Nettles, Fort Worth City Councilman, he said he won't accept anything but the maximum.
We are already failed. It's just be another failure on top of it. And the community will not rest.
Now, there are still some people gathered at the courthouse right now. It's not clear if there will be any planned protests or demonstrations tonight. Councilman Nettles did urge people who wanted to make their voices heard about this issue to come downtown. So we will see how things unfold tonight. For now, live at the courthouse, I'm Caroline Vandergrift, CBS 11 News.
So you all saw that. Before we begin, Shawn, I think it's important for people to know the law of manslaughter. Now, in Texas, this was a Texas case, the law of manslaughter, the definition is very different from, for instance, my home state of Louisiana. So I'll just give everybody a comparison because your laws are important and they're based off what your state legislature has. So manslaughter in Louisiana, for instance, is a homicide which would be murder under either Article 30, which is first degree murder, or Article 30.1, which is second degree murder. But the offense is committed in sudden passion or heat of blood immediately caused by provocation sufficient to deprive an average person of his self control and cool reflection. Provocation shall not reduce a homicide to manslaughter if the jury finds the offender's blood had actually cooled, or that an average person's blood would have cooled at the time of the offense, or a homicide committed without any intent to cause death or great bodily harm when the offender is engaged in the perpetration or the attempted perpetration of any felony not enumerated in Article 30 or 30.1 of any intentional misdemeanor directly affecting the person, or when the offender is resisting lawful arrest by means or in a manner not inherently dangerous, and the circumstances are such that the killing will not be murder under 30 or 30.1, or when the offender commits or attempts to commit any crime or act of violence as defined by Revised Statute 14.2b, which is part of a continuous sequence of events resulting in the death of a human being, where it was foreseeable that the offender's conduct during the commission of the crime could result in death or great bodily harm to a human being, even if the offender has no intent to kill or to inflict great bodily harm. For purposes of this paragraph, it shall be immaterial whether or not the person who performed the direct act resulting in the death was acting in concert with the offender. Whoever commits manslaughter shall be imprisoned at hard labor for not more than 40 years. However, if the victim is under age of 10 years, the offender shall be imprisoned at hard labor with or without benefit of parole or probation or suspension of sentence for not less than 10 years, no more than 40. Now, that's Louisiana. That's a lot. As you can see, we like throwing people in jail in Louisiana. That's why it's the prison capital. At one point it was of the world. Now, you look at the law of Texas. This is where this happens, so this is what applies. Manslaughter occurs when a person commits an offense if he recklessly causes the death of an individual. An offense under this section is a felony of the second degree. So the definition of murder in this section, adequate cause means cause that will commonly produce a degree of anger, rage, or resentment or terror in a person of ordinary temper sufficient to render the mind incapable of cool reflection. Sudden passion means passion directly caused by and arising out of provocation by the individual killed, or another acting with the person killed with passion arising at the time of the offense is not solely a result of the form of provocation. So when they say murder, a person commits an offense if he intentionally or knowingly causes the death of an individual and intends to cause serious bodily injury and commits an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual, or commits or attempts to commit a felony other than manslaughter, and in the course of an in furtherance of the commission or attempt or in an immediate flight from the commission or attempt, he commits or attempts to commit an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual. So the question is, and what he tried to do, Aaron Dean, was state that he feared, like most of these cops, they feared for their life. She had a gun, she had a weapon, but we know Tatiana Jefferson was in her home. She had heard a noise. This was late at night. Yes, there was a door open. Yes, the cops got a call. The neighbor who called the police, we talked about him before, he testified he saw the door open and nobody going in and out. He thought something was going on, which is why he called the cops. But we all know tragically that as a result of his action, him doing that, the police go out and Tatiana was killed. And in that split second, Sean, I'm sure you've seen the video of that night that she didn't have a chance to, but when the cop got there, she didn't have a chance to put down her weapon or surrender. It happened in a very split second, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at these laws, when you look at this, let me ask you first off, what did you think of the verdict that was rendered? Do you agree with it? I want to ask people if you all agree with it, but Sean, I'm going to let you start.
Well, I agree with the verdict to a point because it took so long for us to get justice for Tatiana Jefferson. I mean, this whole case took 3 years to get to trial, and that was egregious in and of itself because the Texas criminal justice system basically was dragging its feet on this trial. Now, if this was a white woman, I doubt they would be dragging their feet as related to this case, but they wanted to do that with this case because they did not want to bring this white man to justice for the death of this black woman. And they didn't want to do that because they didn't want to hold this white man accountable for the crime that he committed going to that house and acting in an unprofessional manner, because an officer is supposed to identify himself first before even going up to a home to give people notice. And if he had just did that, maybe things would have been different. But he went there with his gun drawn, and this led to the death of Tatiana Jefferson because he acted impulsively. Now, this verdict is a rough one because he should have possibly gotten that second-degree murder charge, but that's hard to prove as related to malice or forethought. And with this case, they were able to prove the manslaughter because he did act impulsively, which led to the death of Tatiana Jefferson. Now, that's the whole thing as I see it as related to this case. They were able to prove the manslaughter, but with the people in the criminal justice system, there may possibly be a way of this whole case getting railroaded, because even though you get a conviction, a lot of times these type of people, when they get convicted, they don't get the sentence that they're supposed to get. Most people want to see this officer get the maximum, but what happens in our criminal justice system is oftentimes we get this empty symbolic justice where we get a conviction, but we don't get a punishment that fits the crime.
Well, you think it's progress?
I don't think it's progress at all. I just think it's business as usual.
And that's the point I was making. When you saw the lady testify, she said it's progress. Progress is to what? Because
we're going in circles. The whole thing is a lot of black folks have a problem not understanding that you're going in circles, and that's not going anywhere. Progress is when you can go out here and get maximum sentences and get these officers who are rogue punished.
Well, it's like what happened with the Botham Jean situation. She got convicted of murder, but they only gave her 10 years.
Yeah.
And she tried to appeal that. And it didn't help that you had that little coon brother get up there and hug her during the verdict, and then that coon judge get down and give her a Bible off the stand. And let me say this, she should have been disciplined by the bar for that, in my opinion, because it showed favoritism. And even if her intentions are good and she was trying to help, that's something that her attorneys could have done, are supposed to do for her. Like I have to do in court. I had to do that today. There was a young lady who was crying because she didn't understand what was going on with the proceeding. And I had to stand aside to help her. A judge could not do that and hold her hand. And and of course you had Roly-Poly Martin trying to defend the judge and what she did. But this was and I knew the attorneys. I knew one of the attorneys that was on this case. That case with Botham Jean. But this was in Tarrant County in Fort Worth, and yeah, Tatiana Jefferson. Yeah, she's a sister. Her father, sadly, he passed away. I believe a few weeks after she was killed, and yeah, her life was snuffed and cut short. Now, what got Dean, I think, was that Dean testified at Monday at the trial that he fired at her because he saw a gun. However, in cross-examination, the police officers were able to get him to admit that he had made his actions were from bad police work. including firing without seeing her hands or what was behind her, failing to tell his partner, who went inside and rushed into the home, that he saw a gun, and rushing into the home without fully ensuring it was safe. You got Prosecutor R. Dale Smith's asked, you got another fellow officer from the Fort Worth Police Department entering a home which you have determined to be a burglary in progress with a possible armed assailant, and you didn't think to tell your partner, hey, there's a gun inside. No, he said. You didn't think to tell her, hey, I saw somebody with the gun, Smith asked. No, he said. Dean's testimony was pivotal in the trial, which also featured body camera footage of the shooting and testimony from the primary witness, Dean's police partner, Carol Darch, and Jefferson's 11-year-old nephew. On the stand, Dean described the silhouette he saw as being bent over facing the window with upper arm movement. He grew emotional as he spoke about the moment after he shot Jefferson. So they ran and entered into the home after he shot her. He heard her scream and saw her fall. They went into the bedroom and saw the child there. And I'm thinking, who brings a kid to a burglary? What's going on? That was Zion Carr. And Jefferson was a graduate of Xavier University in 2014 with a degree in biology, and she worked in pharmaceutical equipment sales, according to her family's attorney, which I believe is Lee Merritt. His defense attorneys, Bob Gill, argued that he feared for his life, saying the state cannot prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that this was not self-defense. It's tragic, but it's not an offense under the state of Texas. So yeah, and this is the definition too I have, just so everybody wants to check. You see how everything is different. This is in New York. This is the definition here in Sean's home state. They define it as a person is guilty of manslaughter in the first degree. So they're varying degrees. Is if it's intent to cause physical injury to another person, he causes the death of such person or of a third person, or with intent to cause the death of another person, he causes the death of such person or a third person under circumstances which do not constitute murder because he acts under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance. So if the homicide was committed under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance, a la what they used to call heat of the moment, a la you catch your old lady cheating on you, that was called heat of the moment. I told my law students about that. You know, think of the old 1980s song, in the heat of the moment, baby, I lost my head, I lost my mind, I really didn't know what to do. In the heat of the moment. And that was key too, Donald. There were no blacks on this jury panel. If you register to vote, I want to say this. Voting locally does impact you, but if anything you should register to vote, you should register just so you can serve on these juries. Am I right?
Yeah.
Don't ignore jury duty. If you get the call, do it. Yeah, no blacks on this panel. They didn't object. Obviously, I think that Dean's defense lawyers probably are happy about that. Because had there been blacks on this jury panel, perhaps the verdict might have been different. I don't know if you can argue what we call a Batson challenge, saying you don't have a jury of your peers because there's no blacks on there, but the defendant was white. So he was happy about it. Do you have any final thoughts on this one, Sean?
Well, this whole case shows us that there's a long way that we have to go as related to getting justice, because we really didn't get justice in this case. I mean, yes, this man was convicted, but it's just more business as usual, where we get a conviction for the crime, but we don't get a punishment, as I see it, that possibly will impact anything. I mean, we didn't really get the conviction for murder, so we got a conviction, but we really didn't get any sort of conviction that would assure a punishment that would deter other rogue police officers from behaving like this in the future.
I asked the question in a poll: does the conviction of Aaron Dean for does the conviction of Aaron Dean for manslaughter in the death of Tatiana Jefferson give you satisfaction? Give me a yes or no. So that's what we're asking the chat on the GB channel. Give me a yes or no. Is this satisfying to you? So let's go ahead, Shawn, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I wanted to talk with you about this. This was some big news. I'll just give you my thoughts too. I do think an old saying, yes, there's some justice that's better than no justice. Yes, he's a felon. Yes, he is in trouble. He did get convicted, but there's nothing really, even if he were convicted of murder, that would bring Tatiana back to her family, back to the community. But I think an example should have been made of him. And I don't see why I can see why, because the jury was gone. They had no blacks on there. But for them to come back with a manslaughter, my definition of manslaughter obviously is different what's in Texas, but they obviously felt he acted in a reckless manner. But, the intent there, obviously, if he meant to kill her, to kill that person when he pulled the gun and trigger, there was intent, in my opinion. All right, next topic we got. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the notification bell hit that notification bell so when we're live, we'll know we're going live. I want to ask you this, Shawn. Next thing we're talking about is this Respect for Marriage Act, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the Biden administration, in particular the Democrats, ever since the Jackson versus Dobbs ruling, when had been trying to push for this new act. Now, if you remember, when we talked about this before, there's various civil rights acts that they tried to pass, especially with that Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. That was a pro-LGBT bill as well. And some of the things that they tried to pass never made it even past the Senate because it was predominantly Republican and didn't even go before like the Senate committees who just wouldn't even argue it. So it was dead in the water. But now, especially after Nancy Pelosi is leaving the Congress and the Democrats take the Congress next year, you had 12 Republicans that voted for House Bill 8404, which was sponsored and created by a Gerald Nadler out in New York. It was introduced back in July of 2022. He calls it the Respect for Marriage Act. Now, the Respect for Marriage Act ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to play a video of the Biden administration signing this because they wanted to pass it because they knew, number one, based off what happened with Roe v. Wade being overturned, that there could be a possibility that this act that gay marriage would be overturned by the Supreme Court because Clarence Thomas even talked about it. And I want to just play a clip. I really don't want to play the whole thing, but I want to play this because the Senate had passed it, and now we know people had stated why it should not pass. But this is what happened. Obviously, this is a video of it right now. I didn't know I was gonna play this. I don't want them. They're gonna put me a copyright strike on me. But nothing like says gay marriage than like putting Madonna on, huh? Now, this has over 941 views.
Well, you weren't always so patient.
It's just Chuck.
Also, to Speaker Pelosi.
A president who elevated LGBTQI plus leaders to every level of our administration, who fights for the safety and freedom and dignity of all people every single day. And so with pride, let us welcome the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
God bless you all, and may God protect you during your walk with the wife and I. We heard Brittany's voice on the phone when she was freed, and we addressed the nation together. When we did that, Brittany's wife said, quote, "Today, my family is whole. My fellow Americans, that all-consuming, life-altering, love and commitment, that's marriage. Thank you to everyone on the hard-fought victory generations in the making."
Only one problem: they can't create generations. And that's not an insult against anybody, but it's just a fact, scientific fact. If you look at it, and listen, I know, and I have gay colleagues, especially in the when you're in the entertainment business, Shawn. If you can't work in Hollywood, you can't work in movies and television without homosexuals being present in some way, shape, or form around you. Or people who are gay around working as screenwriters or directors or whatever, producers. But the president talks about the respect for generations. Generations come from the relationship between a male and female. A man and woman, by definition and principle, can procreate. Now, you saw, and I didn't play everything because it's an hour long, it's a well over an hour long video of the president. This photo op that they did with all these people on the lawn of the White House. They bring in Chuck Schumer, they bring in Nancy Pelosi, and they promote this. And then, of course, they had to promote Brittany Griner getting out. And he talked about her and the wife. And I want to ask your opinion on it because I'm going to ask that too, because the guy that she was traded for, Victor Bout, had something very interesting to say about the United States. But I want people to read this bill. Now, it's important you got to read this law because laws are made to be broken. Not that I support breaking laws, but what I mean by that is laws get changed all the time. But basically, this quote, Respect for Marriage Act, they define marriage and say no union is more profound than marriage. Therefore, it embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family. Diverse beliefs about the role of gender in marriage are held by reasonable and sincere people based on decent and honorable religious or philosophical premises. Therefore, Congress affirms that such people in their diverse beliefs are due proper respect. Millions of people, including interracial and same-sex couples, have entered into marriages and have enjoyed the rights and privileges associated with marriages. Couples joining in marriage deserve to have the dignity, stability, and ongoing protection that marriage affords to families and children. But let's start with this. We talk about the protection that marriage affords. Do we even respect? It's called the Defense of Marriage Act, Respect for Marriage Act. But do we respect marriage today? Do we respect marriage with the divorce rates that we see? Unborn children born out of wedlock, the abortion rates. What is sacred about marriage today? especially in the United States. It's nowhere. And I'm not preaching as someone who is better, thinks I'm better than anybody. I'm not. I'm flawed. But what are we promoting here? What are we doing to this generation? He talks about the generations that put in, and they try to make this, and the shame of this all was that if you looked at it, they phrased it as something that's going to protect interracial marriages as well, not just gay marriages. But when you watch the video, if you even look at the title, if you look at Fox 10, this is Fox 10, just look what they put in the description. There's nothing in here about interracial marriage. Look at it. What does it say? President Joe Biden is inviting thousands to celebrate at the White House on Tuesday as he signs into law gay marriage legislation before a bipartisan crowd that reflects growing acceptance of same-sex unions. Nothing about interracial marriages. Hell, you know why? Nobody's been talking about interracial marriage for like 55 years. Not since Loving versus Virginia. There may be some assholes who have a personal problem with it, but ain't nobody trying to prevent from giving a black man and a white woman a license in Orleans Parish to get married. But you all redefine the definition of what marriage is in recorded human history. You see that, Shawn?
Yeah.
Let's read further. So what this is that if they struck down what was called the Defense of Marriage Act, Section 1738C, Title 28, they repealed it because marriage was defined as a union between a man and a woman. I want to share with you something else. We're moving quick. Don't worry. This is the definition of matrimony. The true definite meaning of matrimony, it actually means, moni means a state. It's the state of motherhood. Matri, listen to that word matri. It's the Latin. That's what that means. It means mother. That's where it comes from. Why, Shawn?
Well, I guess it's because the mother is important to the marriage.
Well, that's true. Mom is important, but the union of male and female, what can happen?
No, it's a marriage.
Okay, science, Shawn. When a male and female copulate, what can happen?
They have children.
And that woman becomes?
That's when the woman becomes a mother.
Right. That's what matrimony means, the state of motherhood. That's where that comes from. And so they have, and what this Congress has enacted is called a full faith and credit to get into marriage equality, meaning that any union between, if you know the Constitution, full faith and credit, where rights from someone in one state, what essentially means that all the other states have to give full faith and credit to those same rights if they move subsequently to another state. That's what this law does. And it also enacts the Attorney General to bring a civil action against said people who violates this, and they can get declaratory and injunctive relief. They can also file a private action. So this creates this is a federal law, which means they can go in federal court, which they already have, to argue this. And they define marriage now. They don't say male and female. They say is between two individuals. And that if the marriage is between two individuals and it's valid in the state where the marriage was entered into, or in the case of marriage outside state, if the marriage is between two individuals and it's valid in place, were entered into, and the marriage could have been entered into a state, that means it's recognized. Now they go on to say it has no effect on religious liberty and conscience, in particular consistent with the First Amendment to the Constitution, nonprofit religious organizations and churches, and so forth, and any refusal. But here's the problem, though. In the last several years, have we not seen lawsuits filed against business owners who don't want to go and support, don't want to promote same-sex marriage? Did we not see a baker? We had a baker out in Colorado who got sued because he didn't want to make a gay wedding cake. And a narrow 5-4 decision agreed with him because of his First Amendment rights. You got another case now before the Supreme Court where they stated that the Supreme Court was sympathetic to a designer who opposes creating same-sex wedding sites. Because it comes down to whether you're selling a service and goods in a marketplace and artists who are conveying a message. They ruled narrowly in favor of the Colorado baker when he refused to make a same-sex wedding cake. But now you have a designer because it's a message. So there's a First Amendment thing there. But this is what's going to happen. And this is what's going to happen as a result of this. And then, of course, as you're looking at it now, they say, now I noticed this, they said it doesn't construe or recognize this marriages of between more than two individuals. But what's to stop that? Like I said, laws are made to be broken. Laws change. There's nothing physically that could stop this. 10 years from now, what's to stop them from making a civil rights argument? If you're you just had a judge in New York in the eviction case said a throuple is a family. The definition of family is changing. Shawn, I yield to you.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to this whole Respect for Marriage Act, it's a disrespect, as I see it, to the Most High God, who stated that he made marriage as a covenant between a man, a woman, and him. And the whole foundation of marriage is supposed to be a covenant where you are making a vow to the Most High God to be with this person for the rest of your life so that you can go out here and build a family under God so that his gospel can be taught to the next generation. Now, what your Biden administration is doing is an abomination and, as I see it, a mockery of the Most High's covenant. And what they're doing is using legalese to go out here and make a mockery of that covenant. Because what you're doing when you go out here and make marriage about anybody is you're making it a slippery slope where these alphabet types are making it so they can go out here and secure a marriage based on a knee-jerk reaction to what something they thought Clarence Thomas said as related to the Supreme Court, which he couldn't do that on his own without the help of other Supreme Court justices. So your Biden administration really was acting on its emotions and its feelings instead of doing some critical thinking. And this whole law basically is a law made up based on emotions, and they used black people as a way to try to get this legislation through because they knew they would not have the support to go out here and do that if it was just the alphabet community. So what they
can you explain?
They used black people by talking about interracial marriage when interracial marriage was already settled with the Loving versus Virginia case. So what they wanted to do was put it out there talking about interracial marriage to sell the bill to the American public. but the bill was basically a LGBTQ law, which piggybacked on Black civil rights, and they used us to push the narrative of Black as related to this agenda point, where they could go out here and promote this alphabet agenda, not understanding that the legal interpretation that they're presenting is quite scary, because what you've done is opened the door not only for your LGBTQ marriage, but you've opened the door for people who want to participate in bestiality and other forms of sexual deviancy like pedophilia to use this same law to participate in their sexual deviancy. So
that's, let me stop you though, because I gotta actually, you think it is a far stretch to say that as far as pedophilia, because many people.
No, I know how people will take the interpretation of those words, and when they take it to court, you've got guys out here who are talking about they want to marry sex dolls. You've got guys talking about they want to participate in other deviant sexual acts, and they will use that marriage is anything as a gateway to open the door so that they can go and get legislation to get their right to so-called marry, which is really a gateway for them to participate in their sexual deviancy. So it's a very dangerous law that your Biden administration has passed. And I believe that this law may not even stand the test of time, because once we take this law to the federal courts and the Supreme Court, they may deem this law unconstitutional, because you're just really stretching and reaching as related to this legislation, because you're making it where anybody can go out here and declare themselves married. And again, that's a slippery slope, because you've got a lot of perverts, sexual deviants. They would want to use this law to go out here and say they could marry anything. I mean, I've seen cases of guys talking about they want to marry their sex dolls. And again, they will use this law to be able to lobby this. And again, the alphabet community, they wanted to use Black people to propel this law to get a tangible for themselves. And it just shows how much contempt the Biden administration has, using interracial marriage to go out here and get a tangible for other people, but won't give Black people a single tangible, even though they voted for them in the largest majority.
Well, let me ask you something, because I also mentioned him mentioning Brittany Griner. You know, she's gay and a lesbian. I showed a video, I don't know if you saw it live, where the Russians were mocking a trade that the United States did to get Brittany Griner. They gave up Victor Bout, who is a notorious, to say the least, Sean, arms dealer. He was called the Merchant of Death. And he actually made a statement about the United States. I'm going to see if I can play it, but I want you to hear this, or everybody to hear this, and what happened. This is what he had to say. Hold on.
Maybe America is very much similar. Look, it's the same size. They have it's the same kind of this. And when you talk to them, there is nothing there even to beef about. We are NATO. And whenever there's conflict, it's elites. You know, every American I met in a prison who is from rural area was very easy to deal with. He has no problem with Russia, and he was curious about Russia, despite all propaganda. They're losing their Christian values. They're losing their families. They're losing literally their countries. It's not anymore the same country. We knew America, who used to be a model for entire world and lead and be an example, like they say, a shiny town on the, sparkling town on a hill. And this is, of course, pity. It was a strong country who was really a, industrial might, this one. And look, for 30, 40 years, deindustrialization, drug problem, crime waves. You can understand, and I feel more empathy to American after this experience than I would feel any hate.
What would you consider as the most important event of the year? Most important event of the year.
So he says this and says that the United States is losing its Christian values, which I think it has. I think that U.S. is just downhill, man. It's been going downhill. As a matter of fact, it's off the hill. We just haven't hit the rock bottom yet. We're still falling, as I always say. But Sean, do you have any closing thoughts on
I
this?
have to say, sadly, that he didn't say anything wrong, because, as I've said before, the United States of America has turned into the pathetic states of America. And you have a Victor Bout basically making the same observations I have made in many of my own videos about the decline of America. And you just see a country that's lost its way, it's lost its values, it's lost its moral position. And I've gone over this in numerous videos and live streams, and he's basically saying the same points that I say about how the United States has become a sad state of affairs. And again, this is why I call it the pathetic states of America, because we've got pathetic people who can change things but refuse to change them, and will rather go on a road downhill than stand up and try to preserve the values of their country. And again, when you're pathetic, people just look at you and shake their head like Victor Bout just did, because they managed to get something of higher value while we were caught up in the celebrity of Brittany Griner and trying to virtue signal. And what they got was a major military asset, a guy who knows how to deal weapons, a guy who knows how to wage war. And you gave away a major military asset, all for a two-bit celebrity who never did a single thing for anybody outside of playing some basketball and smoking some weed. Again, it's an embarrassment, and the entire world sees it. And again, this is why people look at the United States of America and see it becoming the pathetic states of America. And they have lost respect for this country because they see how pathetic the people here are and how lost they are. I mean, when I look at America, it's just like the Roman Empire in the last days. You've got a lot of weak beta males, a lot of weak females, and they're leaving they're making the country look so weak that it's ripe and open for invasion.
Damn, you would think that's a move.
Had to tell the truth.
We traded John Wick for Geronimo.
Yeah.
And they were laughing. The Russians were actually laughing at this. Meanwhile, you got military veterans. Even forget the Paul Whelan dude, but he was convicted for espionage. Right?
Yeah.
So he's left behind. Even if I didn't mention him, because I have people, it amazes me too how Negroes will try and justify this shit, justify this stuff. They want to defend it. Well, I just want her home. And she ain't going to do nothing for you. Brittany Griner's not going to speak up on black issues.
No.
Brittany, I mean, we happy. Well, she home. We don't want her in jail. Yeah, I get you happy about that. No, I don't like seeing somebody wrongly jailed, but look what you gave up is the key. This man was a terrorist. This man killed people. He was, the movie The Lord of War was based off his life. He helped chopped up. We talking about Black Lives Matter. He helped chopped up and kill a lot of black lives in Africa by supplying them weapons. Think about that. But yeah, well, let me ask you something, Sean. With the way they see that it's a joke, why did a lot of the Democrats still keep their seats and win more seats in the Senate?
They kept their seats because pathetic Americans fell for the scam that Joker Joe pulled on them. When they heard that the Republicans ended the Roe v. Wade, which was a constitutionally right thing to do, they got people up in their feelings about these abortions, and a lot of these women started running for the voting bloc to go vote blue, trying to protect their so-called abortion rights. And then you had these Gen Z types who bought into Joker Joe's lie about how he was going to forgive their student loans, and they all went voting blue, talking about so-called democracy, ironically not understanding that you put your own democracy in jeopardy, because with this whole pathetic thing that you did, you basically told everybody nobody needs to respect America, because Americans don't respect themselves, because if they respected themselves, they would have stood up for themselves, and they would have voted out these clowns who put jab mandates on them, cost them their jobs and their careers, destroyed people's livelihoods, destroyed many of our soldiers' chances of going to the military. I mean, we should have thrown all those clowns out because we had them quaking in our boots. But the problem is many Americans got caught up in their feelings about casual sex, and
Hollywood
getting
is
some
more
free
in the
money that they didn't really care about the more important intangibles like their freedom. Again, like the Romans taking their lives for granted. And again, this is the sad state of affairs as related to Americans. That's why I call it the pathetic states of America, because pathetic people will sit there and allow somebody to abuse them without holding them accountable, like many other generations did. I mean, this generation, I think, would have reelected Herbert Hoover. That's how pathetic they are. Even though he was running the country into the ground, they would have allowed Herbert Hoover to get 3 or 4 terms. And again, this is the sad state of affairs here in the pathetic states of America, where people don't stand up for themselves because they're so busy trying to medicate their pain with creature comforts that they don't see that they're opening the door for an invasion.
Yeah. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk about this. This is bad news. I talk about this one, brother. DJ Twitch Boss, who was known for being the DJ on the Ellen DeGeneres show, or as Judge Joe Brown says, the Ellen DeGeneres show. Well, sadly, DJ Twitch Boss is dead of an apparent suicide at the age of 40. According to, we're going to go to CBS Mornings, but according to the reports, DJ Twitch Boss was found dead at a hotel out in Los Angeles. According to TMC, Boss died by suicide. He was reportedly found dead on Tuesday at a Los Angeles hotel from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Boss was the runner-up on season 4 of So You Think You Can Dance in 2008. In 2014, he joined the Ellen DeGeneres show and was an integral part of the show until it ended in 2022. He became co-executive producer of the show in 2020. Ellen DeGeneres wrote the following in a tweet. She said, quote, "I am heartbroken. He was pure love and light. He was my family, and I loved him with all my heart. I will miss him. Please send your love and support to Allison and his beautiful children, Wesley, Maddox, and Zaya." And I'm going to actually put up, I'm going to play a CBS Morning News auto video. Yes. Hey, Shawn, you got the fan on?
Why don't have fan off the MacBook doing that?
Filling up your airbag?
No, it's a MacBook Pro. The computer's got the fan.
Yeah, but that's a tweet from Ellen DeGeneres on their show where they're hugging each other. We're going to go ahead and play this video right quick, y'all.
Fans the world over are reeling after the unexpected death of DJ Stephen how it happened. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Twitch is widely known for his role as the dancing DJ on the Ellen DeGeneres show. His charisma and his larger-than-life personality making his death all the more shocking. CBS 8's Steve Price reports.
Thank you. He always seemed to be smiling and having a great time. So tonight, sadness and shock that Stephen Boss, better known as Twitch, is dead. The LA County Coroner's Office says the former Ellen Show DJ died at a motel near his home from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Twitch was somebody known to be so upbeat, so positive, so full of energy and life.
Dr. Dan Reidenberg with Suicide Awareness Voices of Education says the problem is that depression can easily be hidden from family and friends.
If somebody's walking around with a broken arm or a broken leg and they're on crutches, you can't cover that up. With mental health challenges like depression, anxiety, you can cover that up.
Twitch, who was also a professional dancer, was just in San Diego a few years ago. Even taught CBS 8's Abby Alford a few moves.
Because it kind of feels good to do.
Ellen DeGeneres posted this on social media today. "I'm heartbroken. Twitch was pure love and light. He was my family, and I loved him with all my heart. I will miss him. Please send your love and support to Allison and his beautiful children, Wesley, Maddox, and Zaya."
You just get it there and then bring it back. It's just 2 to each side, really.
With the holidays approaching and family gatherings taking place, suicide prevention experts say This is a good opportunity to really listen to others, pay attention for warning signs.
People talking about having no sense of purpose, no reason to live anymore. Everybody will be better off without me.
The number for the U.S. Suicide Prevention Hotline is 988. If you can't get the person you're concerned about to call, offer to call the number with them and stay by their side.
Peace, everybody.
Twitch was just 40 years old. Steve Price, CBS 8.
The Rancho Coastal Humane
It's always sad when you see somebody, especially that young, and I'm only 3 years young, about 4 years younger than DJ Twitch, um, dead, especially when he still had his life ahead of him. He had family. According to what I was even reading, his wife actually said they were planning to have another kid. So I'm so saddened to hear about his passing the way he did. But the holidays, as much as it is a happy time, Sean, they say depression even is worse around this time of year because there's financial issues. You obviously want to have to have money to buy gifts for Christmas. You have people that are going broke, using their last few dollars to buy stuff for their loved ones. And people get depressed as well because you may have family members that are no longer present, or that are no longer present in your life. And that can lead to you being depressed as well, that they're not here. And you just never know, just in general, with depression, as somebody who's battled with it myself uh, in the past, is you just never, people will keep that stuff hidden. People don't always talk about it. You never know what will happen. But I'm sorry, and I wasn't a fan of Ellen DeGeneres, but still, it saddened me to see that this young brother died the way he did. And I just pray for his family and his loved ones and friends that he touched and were affected by. Sean?
Yeah. Well, I'm really sorry to hear about the passing of this man. And he really sounded like a man in crisis, like I talk about in the Man Crisis. And with many men who are in crisis, they don't really talk about their problems. A lot of guys try to hold it in because they believe that that's part of being strong. But what's really strong is having the strength of character to admit that there are some things that you just can't do on your own and go out here and seek out the help that you need to get. Because that's one of the big problems I see in the Black community these days. We have a lot of Black men out here who are holding on to their personal problems and the demons that they struggle with. And because they sit there and hold on to those demons, eventually those demons wind up overtaking them and leading to them taking their own lives. So we've got a lot of guys out here who are struggling with depression, a lot of guys struggling with anxiety like I do, and a lot of guys just feeling despondent sometimes because they feel like everything is hopeless. And that can really burden a man. But we have to make things safer for men to go out here and talk, because a lot of times a lot of men don't feel like they're safe talking because, like I did in a video talking about that therapist, Shabri Rawls, how she just attacked Black men. A lot of Black men don't feel like there's a safe space for them to go out here and be safe to express themselves. And it's a major problem because every time a Black man wants to go out here and express himself as related to his mental health, what happens is people want to either throw it up in his face later on, or they want to just question their competence. And this is stuff I've run into myself. And many men, we want to go out here and talk about our problems, but we're either told not to talk about them or we're dismissed at the time. And again, this does not incentivize us to go get help that could possibly save our life. I mean, a lot of people don't want to understand that the many Black men go through a lot of issues that we just don't feel comfortable talking about. And that's one of the reasons why many men are out here and they feel like they have no hope and they believe that it's all right to take their own life. But we have to, again, create that safe environment so that they feel safe about talking about the problems that they're having in their life.
Yeah. And I believe that's his wife there, if I'm not mistaken.
To grow that family.
I'd love to start trying for another one. Oh.
Yeah.
In a statement to Entertainment Tonight, Holker called Boss the backbone of our family, the best husband and father. On Instagram, Ellen DeGeneres said she was heartbroken. In May, the day before her show went off,
Just man, just sad. I just hate seeing that, man. It's a damn shame.
Yeah.
If you got problems, guys, just reach out to somebody. Like they say, reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this world a better place if you can. You never know what people are going through internally, you know. And I liken it, you know, just like when Chadwick Boseman passed away in 2020, Sean. I remember people were making fun of him, calling him the Crack Panther when they saw how thin he was like the year before, but people didn't realize he was battling cancer.
Yeah.
It
He
was a
felt he couldn't talk about it either.
Huh?
He felt he couldn't talk about his cancer either.
Yeah, I think the reason why he couldn't talk about it, he knew if it came out. Well, I think it was more financial thing as well, because if you have cancer, you're sick, how can you work? How can directors look at you? People will look at you differently. People treat you differently. That's why you got to be compassionate with people that are battling an illness. And mental health, depression, that is an illness. And you got to realize with your brain, it's always going to be there. You can't take it out. Whatever you're going through is here. And you got to live with it.
Yeah.
Seek help as much as you can. We're on the last few topics, man. I want to ask you about something I want to ask you. This shakeup that's going on in at Warner Brothers DC. With Warner Brothers, I think James Gunn's taking over DC Comics now. Henry Cavill, who played Superman, has stated that his time as Superman is over because James Gunn is taking over DC. And my problem with this is that they're going to be focusing on the earlier part of Superman's life. We're not even 10 years removed. Next year will be 10 years from when they did the Man of Steel movie. And I don't know if you saw, did you see Black Adam yet, Sean?
No, I'm going to see it this weekend.
Okay, so I don't know if I can talk about it with you with a spoiler alert, but let's just put it this way. Let me go back. They just released Zack Snyder's Justice League. It hasn't been even 6 years from that. And we're already doing a reboot story. They want to reboot Superman. I just don't see the need for it. And you know, they've canceled, and you did a live stream about the cancellation of a lot of projects going on at DC. Like they're not doing, like I think they're not doing the Batman Beyond. They're not doing Batgirl was canceled. You had I think the Flash is still going to play, right?
Yeah.
Because they had a lot of money invested in that. Even though the guy who plays the Flash, Henry, what's his name?
Ezra Miller.
Ezra Miller, yeah, apparently he's a fucking scumbag. He's a scumbag.
He is.
From what I've heard. He's a douchebag. But they put a lot of money in it. So Cavill, he's not returning as Superman. Because the next project they're going to do, he's going to focus on Superman as a kid.
This sounds extremely awful.
And he did and for somebody for people, especially Superman, the people that were trying to step away Superman from the Christopher Reeve era, because remember they had failures with with Superman Returns. And remember they had a Superman movie, I think Tim Burton was supposed to direct, that was in development hell, that Nicolas Cage was going to play Superman. He actually did a very fine job. I thought the storyline and stuff was better. I thought what Zack Snyder did was pretty good. The problem was DC Studios did not want to invest, I think, in the way with quality writers like your Marvel Comics did. When Marvel Comics did, and a lot of people mistakenly say Iron Man was the first, he wasn't. It was actually Blade. Because Blade came out in, I believe, 99 or 98.
98.
Yeah, with Wesley Snipes. And then you had in 2002, I think it was Blade 2. And then like 04, I think, or it might have been 03, I could be mixed up, was Blade Trinity. And that actually got Marvel Comics started, Marvel Films started. Then you had Iron Man in 08, and John Favreau, I thought, did a great job directing that movie. Because Tony Stark really was a playboy just like Robert Downey Jr. was. You know, Robert Downey Jr., he's basically a cat with 9 lives. He had all types of legal shit happen to him. But just like him, Ezra Miller, these white boys, they're going to get a second chance. But neither here nor there, I'm not happy with this. Now, I don't want to spoil it for the movie Black Adam for you, Shawn. But just the way and direction they were going, it seems like DC has there is like a chicken with their head cut off. DC is a chicken with its head cut off. It doesn't know where it wants to go. I'll leave the rest to you.
Yeah, your DC Studios is starting off on a bad foot. I mean, you built up a whole lot of goodwill with Dwayne Johnson at the end of Black Adam. He worked to try to build up some momentum for DC Studios. But when I look at DC Studios, it's just another reflection of America, because with pathetic people, they don't want to change, and they just keep going back to the same dysfunction that they're used to. I mean, when I listened to James Gunn, I thought he was going to take DC in a good direction. But after this, he's fired Henry Cavill. And again, this is a slap in the face to all of those comic fans. You brought out Henry Cavill. You made us get our hopes up. And then you go right back to the same dysfunction, talking about you bringing back Amber Heard for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. You're talking about bringing back Ezra Miller. And you're just doing the same thing that alcoholics and drug addicts do. The minute you think that they're going to get off the wagon, get off the sauce, and get themselves together, you go right back to the same dysfunction that you had before. And most comic fans like myself, we're just tired of this codependent relationship that Warner Brothers has been trying to foster with us ever since 2011, when they rebooted the DC universe and tried to foist the New 52 on us. And ever since 2011, your DC has been in a major state of decline, and we never get to see this brand get back to actualizing its potential, because the people there basically are just dysfunctional and codependent. And codependent people, they don't want to change. That's the big problem with them. And the only thing you can do with codependent people like this is just walk away from them. That whole idea of Superman being a kid is just absolutely absurd. I mean, what we want is a build into movies that go from Superman to Batman to Wonder Woman. We want a Superman movie with hope. And we're not getting what we want. What we're getting is a lot of creative types that are getting full of themselves. And they remind me a lot of failed directors like Michael Cimino, who was the director of Heaven's Gate, who got full of himself to the point where he made one of the biggest cinematic disasters in history. And that's what your James Gunn looks like he's headed on a course to. I thought he was headed on a course in the right direction, but I look at your Warner Brothers, and again, Warner Brothers is its own worst enemy. And as its own worst enemy, what they do is the minute they think that you think that they're going to get it together, they go out here and do something stupid. And as they're doing something stupid, you just have to shake your head. But what I think most comic fans need to do is just say enough is enough, walk away from Warner Brothers, and just say, look, you make all the movies you want. I ain't spending no money on them. And I've said that for years. Oh, I'm not spending a single dime on this garbage. You want to go in this direction. You want to make the movies you want. Go ahead and make them. I'm not spending any money on them. And the only way they're going to realize how much they've messed up is when they hit rock bottom. And again, sometimes you have to do that with a person who's on a destructive path of behavior. What you got to do is leave them to their dysfunction, let them self-destruct, because there's nothing you can do at that point. And I had to do that with DC Comics many years ago with their comic books, where I just said, I'm not going to buy your comics anymore. I'm not going to buy your merchandise. I see you trying to foster a codependent relationship with me, where you thinking you're going to get power over me with your characters and your intellectual properties. Well, I understand my value as a fan. I understand my value as a man. And if you can't show me my respect by giving me what I want, then I'm going to go out here and leave your crap on the table and go out here and find some other stories to go out here and read.
Yeah, I think people just need to go ahead and not support Disney. I'm sorry, DC. That's the only way you're gonna get it. I would have loved to have seen, a Batman Beyond movie. That's something I was looking forward to because I remember when they had the Batman Beyond TV series on Warner Brothers Television, WB Kids, and the fact that they were going to have Michael Keaton play an older Bruce Wayne, I think would have brought fans full circle. You're not listening to what the fans want. People
No.
will go see the movie. People will go see because the '80s kids are still around. We're '80s kids. Batman was Michael Keaton to us, just like Christopher Reeve was Superman. James Bond will always, Sean Connery will always be James Bond to people, but the '80s in particular, that era, it was Michael Keaton, Christopher Reeve, and Harrison Ford. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone as Rambo. And the superheroes we had, those were the only prominent two, Batman and Superman. Nobody was really rocking with Spider-Man at that time because they didn't have a Spider-Man movie. And yeah, and I wasn't, Guardians of the Galaxy was good, but remember when they kicked James Gunn out of there because he had some allegations against him, and then you had the people at Marvel, the staff that was on the set of Guardians of the Galaxy, the cast, they defended him.
No, I can't defend this. This is just a mess.
This is a mess. This is a disgrace. What's going to happen? What about Shazam? Shazam, I thought, was a step in the right direction. They did great with that.
Yeah. But it looks like they just don't care. And it's like, okay, if you don't care, then I can just keep my money in my pocket.
Well, I'm not going to go. I'm not supporting it. You want to support it?
I'm not touching it.
No, I'm good. Y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I don't have anything. One last thing. Gun is a Troll. The movie Blight was a Superman troll movie. I didn't care for that either. Shawn, I just had one quick thing to say. I wanted to ask you. I think we talked. I don't know if we talked about this, but did you hear about in New York how Mayor Adams? I talked about this on Tuesday. Your mayor is planning to use the police force to go at the homeless population. You aware of that?
I'm aware of it, and I don't think he has a legal leg to stand on because.
Well, before you comment, I want to ask, what's the reaction like from because you're in the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
What is it like in the neighborhoods there in terms of I know New York has a significant homeless crisis, just like in Los Angeles, but what's it like there, and what are people saying about it?
A lot of people aren't happy about it. A lot of people think it's the wrong way to go. And the hospital system here is already taxed. And what he's going to do is overwhelm the hospital system and make it where he's just warehousing people without any sort of real plan or any real direction. I mean, he's just copying and pasting the Ed Koch policies of the 80s, not understanding how that all ended for Ed Koch. And Ed Koch tried this back in the 1980s with a woman named Billy Boggs. And I remember growing up, I was a teenager at the time. And that didn't end well for Ed Koch, because when he tried to go after Billy Boggs, the black woman, with this thing, it created legal precedent that said that you couldn't go out here and take people against their will. Plus, your Adams doesn't really see the slippery slope that he's on, because what people can do is, like they did back in the 19th and early 20th centuries, a lot of men would go out here and marry rich women. And what they would do is use these mental health laws to put them in mental institutions. So it's a slippery slope, because if the police can arrest somebody for looking like a homeless person, which has some very dubious credibility as related to our Constitution, then they could take anybody off the street and put them in a mental health facility and then take their resources. So this is a very dangerous law. And again, a lot of it is unconstitutional. It was proven unconstitutional over 30 years ago. So this is a very dangerous thing for your Eric Adams, which is not going to make him very favorable to many constituents who already hate him at this point, because his approval rating is at 26% right now, and it's steadily falling.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, be recalled. Shawn, do you think he'll be recalled?
I think he's going to get. I think he may get recalled, or he may get caught up in a federal scandal where he winds up getting some federal charges on him. I don't see him lasting that long, because he's alienated a lot of people.
What scandal? What's federal scandal?
He's been. I think there might possibly be a federal scandal. I can't. That's just me speculating, because he's been hanging out with a lot of shady types. So I'm thinking he may be digging his own political grave, and people are letting him go out here and dig his own grave and let him. He's going to destroy himself.
Yeah. I talked about this, and I thought it was a bad move on his part to actually have something like this. And I saw someone, I think his attorney, the city attorney, tried to defend him and state that it's a good move. But yeah, it has faced backlash that he's doing this. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is this. Shannon, I know you don't follow sports, but Skip Bayless took a shot at Shannon Sharpe trying to defend trying to defend your Tom Brady. And a lot of people noticed it. But if you've seen this, but Skip Bayless always gets personal. But did you actually see the video? And you probably may or may not have.
I haven't seen it, so.
All right, well, let me play it for you, because you got time today. Oh, I didn't expect that on my screen. Fair enough.
High level at 45 when you had to stop at 13. Still playing at a high level at 45 when you had to stop at 35.
Skip, that's what you do.
That's the point.
That's what you do. Every time I call something into question, I'm jealous.
No,
Skip, I did what I did.
never said you were jealous of Baker Mayfield.
Skip, I did what I did. You make it seem like I was a bum. I'm in the effing Hall of Fame.
What?
Super Bowl.
So what?
So what?
He's way better than you were.
I'm better than you.
Better.
Skip, what I got to see what you do? You take personal shots.
No, I don't take personal shots. You started it.
Time out. You would take a personal shot at me.
I didn't take a personal shot at you.
Wait a minute.
What are you talking about?
You would take a personal.
Put your glasses back on.
Can I finish? You're willing to take a personal shot at me to say this man is better than me because I say he's playing bad this year?
Well, because you just
go ahead.
You disrespect him. It's just so. You know what? It's beneath your dignity.
You would disrespect me to support him.
No, well, I'll support him over anybody because he's the greatest player who ever played your game, and it's by far.
Have at it.
Okay,
Take off,
I'm going to have at it because I'm going to have at you.
Nah, Shannon Sharpe played over. Shannon Sharpe has played over 14 years. Skip 14 years in the NFL Hall of 14 years in the National Football League. Elected to the Hall of Fame 2011. First team All-Pro 4 times. Elected to the Pro Bowl 8 times. Skip. And I won 3 Super Bowls. And I'm unequivocally one of the greatest tight ends of all time, Skip. That Tony Gonzalez was a playboy. He was a pretty boy, Skip. I got my restitution from him. That's what Shannon Sharpe would say. But, you know, Shannon Sharpe, a lot of people aren't really supporting, you know, some people aren't really supporting Shannon. I saw O'Shea Duke Jackson do a video how he got hit calling it his nigga wake up call. Because Shannon, you remember, was one of the athletes that were coming at Kyrie Irving. These former athletes who are now talking heads on shows like ESPN, on shows like ESPN's First Take, TNT, and so forth. And Shannon, I watched Shannon actually dog out this damn HBCU, Savannah State, talking about he wanted to go to a white school. But here, Skip Bayless, a guy who only averaged 1.4 points in basketball, who's calling out all of these black players like he does by name, like he calls Chris Bosh Bosh Spice, and went at him. And this is what my man this is what Jalen Rose, he did this. This is the only time I like Jalen Rose. Jalen Rose went at
so a novice could follow the game. Just because you're a power forward, that doesn't make you physical. Just because you're a shooting guard, that don't mean you can jack up threes. That's
what
just
were you,
position.
Jalen? What were you?
Where were you? Did you average 1.4 points as a senior in high school?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so all of that Pistol P stuff, Water Pistol Pete Jr.
Okay, we'll address that later. We're going to.
Don't ignore that. Did you play junior?
Yeah.
Did you play JV as a junior?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll follow.
What were you?
Okay.
What were you? What was your position?
I have no position.
You were a point guard.
I have no game.
You were a.
The positions were only.
Somebody who's not an athlete talking about other athletes, and my man and Kevin Durant. I haven't even looked at it. Kevin Durant actually shared a harsh reaction to Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless fight. He said Durant told Shannon, toughen up Shannon. A lot of people clap back at Skip Bayless for that, but Skip Bayless always goes after Skip goes after black athletes. He goes at LeBron James hard. And of course, inside the NBA on TNT, they mock. I'm not even interested in seeing them talk. But what did you think, man?
Well, I think what happened here is a bootlick reaped what he sowed. I mean, your Shannon Sharpe has been licking boots of white guys for many years, and what they did was just show him how little respect they have for all of his boot licking. And your Shannon Sharpe thought, oh, I'm going to go out here and lick the boots of these white supremacists, and that this will earn me their respect. And they just basically showed him what they thought of him. And this is what many people call his N-word wake-up call. But I doubt he's going to hear the wake-up call. He's going to continue going on in dysfunction, not understanding that these people never respected you. And the way you get respect is not by licking their boots, by taking their respect and checking them from day one.
Yeah, the BF commentators are worse. Like Malika and that hustle. I think the male athletes are the ones we see prominently though. The black females, the black female commentators come across, maybe not all of them, but the ones prominent ones. But Stephen A. Smith, in particular, Stephen A. Smith, Charles Barkley, and to some degree Shannon, they come off as they're bootlegs. I've seen Shannon act a damn fool on Undisputed a couple times. Yeah, he'll talk black and say some positive things, but then he backtracks. You try and throw a man under the bus for nothing. He didn't even say nothing. Kyrie Irving didn't say a thing. He shared a link. That's it. And whether you want to say he shouldn't have shared it, okay, but you suspend the man? Yes, and I found what Shannon Sharpe said about HBCUs was bad. I can talk about it. I mean, we can talk bad about HBCUs got their problem. All that stuff, but yeah, I thought it was bad for him. He actually said on national television that he wanted to go to a white school. I never wanted to go to HBCU. And he only went because that's the only school that would take him. You know what? It's just like in law school. I know a lot of white attorneys who went to Southern University Law Center. You know why? They couldn't afford LSU. So black people aren't the only ones that go to HBCUs because they can't afford predominantly white institutions. White people do it too. That's why the rates have gone up. Why it's gotten so diverse. And we're a black school. I'm gonna wrap it up now, y'all. I don't have too much more to say, but yeah, they're not even doing Wonder Woman either. Wonder Woman 3 is canceled. The one we're doing Woman 2 sucked anyway. All right. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to advertise, you can email me at gavin.jewett1@gmail.com. Go to the Patreon. Subscribe to our at Commonwealth Cos page on Facebook, promoting Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., which is on Kindle right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Shawn, do you want to promote something? Go ahead right now.
All right, my newest book, The Woman Crisis, is now available in paperback and Kindle format right now at Amazon.com and all online booksellers. And you can pick up my latest John Haynes series book, John Haynes at Death's Door, on Amazon.com in paperback right now. And if you want a digital version of John Haynes at Death's Door, you'll be able to get one on December 26th. And you can put in your pre-order for John Haynes at Death's Door on Kindle right now.
Check out Gotta Get On Up and Video Soul on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. Get The Woman Crisis by Shawn James. Also, ladies and gentlemen, get you some Nani's Creole blends. Ladies and gentlemen, go to Nani'sCreoleBlends.com. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nani's goes great with every dish. DeAndre asked me, what do you think HBCU's biggest problem is, Gavin? Well, I think it's not just one problem. That's the first thing. Biggest problem if I had to say the biggest problem we've had, I think a lot of it has to deal with, I'll just get right to it. There's corruption. Of course, and let me just say this and preface my remarks. Corruption is everywhere. I don't want it made to look like HBCUs are all corrupt because they're not. But within our administration, especially our staff and stuff, one of the biggest problems I find happen to be incompetence and nepotism, issues with financial aid. I remember the days when you had to go to financial aid to figure out when you were going to get your refund check, and you had to wait weeks sometimes on end before you can get it, and that was the only way you had money to survive and to get money for books. And if you couldn't afford a book, then you had to know somebody who had the books so you can make copies of them and you could follow in class. That's the stuff I remember as a kid. Also, nepotism being there because you have somebody who knows somebody that works there, but they don't know how to run the admissions office, how to run financial aid, don't have a clue about stuff. There was just a lot of stuff and this was at Southern when I experienced it. People not being able to graduate, don't find out at the last minute that their credits hadn't been approved, and they invite all their family and friends to graduation, walk the aisle, and they're not. That's a problem. And funding, I would say, our HBCUs are underfunded by the states. But another problem that it has is that donors don't give back. Alumni don't give back like talking about it. So we criticize Deion Sanders for not staying, but we got to ask ourselves about him. If we're criticizing him for not staying at Jackson State for as long as he has, what have we contributed to fund HBCUs? Are you a member of their Alumni Federation Association? Have you given back? Do you go to the school? Do you give money? Did you set, if you're a millionaire, have you set up scholarships with the school? Now, I'm not a millionaire yet. I imagine one day before I'm 40, I'm pushing for it. I will be. I would love to give money to the school, but I also want to know, and I related this to everybody about the story with Bill Cosby. I want to know where the money is going. I have a right to know. It's my money. And even if I can't give the money to the school, I'd be happy to just give it individually to that student. I'd set up my own private scholarships and say, hey, you got to attend Southern University in order to get this scholarship, or Xavier, or Dillard, or Suno. There's only 5 historically black college and university and law centers in the country. I'd love to set up scholarships with them, but in particular, because I went to Southern, that's my alumni, that's my school, that's my home. I want to go there. You know what? I can criticize it if I want to, because I paid my dues, damn it. I've earned my right. I've earned my right. But that answers your question. Yeah, that's a big problem, DeAndre. I hope you're doing good, brother. I hadn't seen you in a while. I was hoping you would come to one of the comedy shows. We might have another one before the new year, so just be on the lookout. But we're going to wrap it up. We want to thank Shawn for coming in. I want y'all to please go to that Facebook page. Please donate to the Cash App and PayPal. Yes, Skip is a male Karen. I don't even know what talent Skip Bayless has had. What has he been on? How did he get on television? First off, because I don't read none of the shit he's put out. You?
No, I don't even know anything about this guy.
No, nobody does. But we're going to wrap it up. We got to get out of here. I got to get out of here in a second. But Shawn, I want to thank you again. I appreciate you. We're going to wrap this up. We love y'all, ladies and gentlemen. This has been another edition of Random Topic Thursdays. As we always do, we've gotten on down with the topics. It's now time to get on up. Have a good evening, Shawn, and everybody else. I will see you all in the next one.
All right. Thank you for having me on.
All right. No problem. Shawn, I got something I want to ask you. If you don't mind, could you stay on just for a few minutes?
All right.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, because on the dance floor is where we'll be. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Right now the party's wasted. Much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. stop or do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up.
Now, 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you breathe and you achieve. And so, if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll be.
Feel the groove, get on the floor.
Get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor.
Get on up, baby. Yeah, gotta get on up. Come on, baby, gotta get on up, baby.
Feel the groove, get on the floor.